Sabah everybody and welcome back. At first, when I first heard about these buds about a couple of months ago, I was a little bit skeptical as to what the purpose of a pair of buds that allows sound to come in from the outside. A pair of buds that don't feature active noise cancellation and don't even have an ambient mode, because technically they actually are open. These are open ear buds. These are buds that allow us to actually hear things as they are from the outside because they technically have an opening in the middle of them. So Sony put together this pair of buds for a specific reason. We're going to talk about that. I'm actually going to share with you guys why I actually grown to like these buds. They actually feature some multitasking functionality that most buds on the market can't even come close or even touch. This is TK and this is my review of the Linkbuds from Sony. Let's check them out. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified whenever we have new videos on the channel. So in front of us is the Linkbuds by Sony. These were released a couple of months ago. I got them in white. There's a couple of options that are available for you. And as you can see here, the design is definitely very unique. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the purpose of these things are. And can they actually provide us a better experience than some of the other options on the market? Now, as far as my testing, I got an opportunity to test it out with the brand new Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV. So the experience itself should be transferable to any smartphone on the market, but I got a chance to actually test out this device, so definitely want to keep Sony to Sony. Now, as you can see, technically, even though it's white, there's a little bit of different specs in there, but overall it looks pretty much white when you're looking at it. Some information about the actual tech, of course, up to 5.5 hours and 12 hours extra with the provided case. Not only does it support iPhone, but also supports basically Alexa as well as the Google Assistant for their respective functionalities. So if you'd like to use one over the other, you're definitely going to be happy in there. And of course, it works with Android and iOS. Now, the packaging is definitely a biodegradable. You can definitely see they've reused and recycled material here. This is definitely a big move of what Sony's been trying to do for the last few months. We even saw that with the Xperia 1 Mark IV. There's no more charger in the box. So here, we're definitely getting a very nice biodegradable experience. Right out of the box, we're greeted with one, download and install the application. They give you a QR code, make sure that it fits, and then of course, listen to music. The buds themselves do come with multiple ear tips. So these are the rings that go around the actual buds to provide us a nice little fit and snug fit into the ear. And then of course, there's an instruction video to be able to follow that. Last but not least, we have the buds themselves. Now, I did put them back in here. Obviously, I've been using them for the last couple of weeks. But if we remove the top part of the casing itself, we have access to the additional tips that are included in here, a USB-C to USB-A charging cable, and of course, the instruction manual. All of this, again, in a biodegradable, very nicely packed, and of course, very nice looking packaging from Sony. And the big thing to keep in mind is that this is actually very, very small. I mean, when I put it in my hand, I know I'm trying to make it look smaller than it is. No, this is seriously one of the smallest casing that I've seen on the market. We have a USB-C and a reset button that's present here on the back. We have basically a push button to open up the case, as well as an actual LED, a single LED here telling us what's going on. So if it's charging the buds themselves, as we have that now, and of course, we see the buds directly. On the top, nothing pretty much there. They are technically clamped in. This is not just magnetic, so when you put them in, there's a little bit of a click that you actually have to hear. And there actually is a little bit of a clip here that's present there that clips to the back of the actual unit. So you can put them in here, put that in, and that makes them so that they actually don't fall down. There's no chance for them to fall down. No wireless charging, pretty much just straight up USB-C connector here on the back. And of course, the buds themselves charge directly in the case. The buds are very, very nice. There are indicators here as well as areas here to keep them clean. The connectors as well as the right and left, so you'll know exactly which bud is which. Although it's pretty hard for you to be able to put one in the other's casing because it just doesn't work that way. So when I put them in here, all I have to do is basically click twice, close, and it's ready to go. But as far as usage, all you have to do as usual, just make sure you pair them, and there is an application you need to download from Sony. As you can see here, the speakers actually look very much like actual speakers. This is what this experience is really going to feel like. When you have them in the ear, because they're open, you can definitely see through them right here. The big thing to keep in mind is this literally feels like if you had a speaker that you put very close to your ear. I'm obviously not saying that a very loud noise, but definitely feels that way, where you're able to hear sound, but you're still able to hear the surrounding experience. So very nice. Again, these little wings here that are replaceable to make sure that you get the best fit. Otherwise, that little clip that we were talking about, or click that we were talking, goes through here. Make sure you put the earring, the clip at the top. And then from there on, make sure to download and install the application. So let's go ahead and switch over to that. And one thing to mention before we get too far, this actually obviously uses USB-C to charge. Maximum charging, maximum life they're saying is about 17 hours worth of usage. And that's about 5.5 hours with the actual included Buds battery, as well as the up to basically 2 times of charging on this. But as far as usability, depending on what features and functionalities you have activated, that battery life will definitely be impacted slightly. I will say that as far as overall performance, this supports Bluetooth 5.2, and it has a good effective range of up to 32 feet within a straight line of sight, and of course it diminishes as there are more obstacles between it and the actual device are in there. It is IPX4, so it is water. It has some water and dust resistance, so it shouldn't have any issues if you want to work out in them. And as far as the codec that we have in here, SBC and AAC are going to be the best capabilities that we get in here. And it'll switch. There's an option here in the settings that we're going to get a chance to check them out. Now, as far as the app itself, this is Sony standard music app. You just need to connect them. Once you have them connected, you'll have a few set of functions that you can do. First and foremost, we can see the battery level, and of course, we can also see the battery level on the case. Let's go ahead and click OK and give it a second. So it's at 93%. It doesn't automatically show it so that it doesn't keep the connection alive between the two, saving us some battery. Right now it says that I'm connected on AAC with DSEE turned on, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We have a default music player directly under the status because I was listening to some songs. As far as the actual configuration and all the things that we can do, now there is this function called speak to chat. Meaning if you're listening to music, and let's say you do tend to get into conversations, but you don't want to obviously stop the music, this allows the system to automatically recognize when you're talking and reduces the volume on the music. So allowing you to basically have a little bit more personal conversation. And once it detects that you stop talking for about 5 or 10 seconds, it'll go back to normal state, normal volume. One thing to keep in mind though, keeping this on with some of the other functions will reduce battery, but it is a feature if you'd like to have it. Little quick tip though, if you like to sing with your songs, make sure to turn this feature off, as it will recognize your own a cappella version of the song as talking and will reduce the volume. We have a built-in EQ that we can customize, and we have different options to set that up in there. We have an analyze ear shape and of course optimize apps. This is depending if you're going to be listening to 360 audio or of course get a more personal EQ experience. Now as far as the codec here, we have a couple of priorities. We can either make it so that it actually gives us priority on sound quality or priority on stable connection. Meaning if you're in an area where there's a lot of interruptions, you notice that they're not playing very well, you may want to jump over to here. It does reduce the quality of the audio, but it doesn't actually reduce it to the point where it's not good. The only thing I would say is I prefer to keep it on sound quality, and this actually has overall for the most part giving me the same range, which is very nice. So over about 20 feet or so between me and a couple of walls and where the phone is usually left in the office. Last but not least, we have DSCE. You can also turn that on in here or of course turn it on in the settings, but this also enables us to have some of the best audio experiences. So again, AAC with this one, and if I switch it over here to priority stable connection, it'll drop us down to SBC, but overall still a pretty good experience. As far as system, we have adaptive volume control. Again, this is one of those nice functionalities, adapting the volume based on the environment. So it's just something I want to mention to you guys. You can turn it on. It does drain a little bit of extra battery, but overall, very nice. As far as the playback here, we have the ability of configuring the double tap and the triple tap functionality. And one thing to mention, you actually do not need to double tap or triple tap on the buds themselves. This is something that's unique to these buds. You actually have to touch the area in front of the buds to be able to configure it. We have the ability of configuring here different functionality, playback, volume, selecting song, Google Assistant, the Amazon Alexa as well, and of course quick access and no stand if you don't want to. There is no single tap, it's either double or triple. You're able to configure the one on the right or the left. Now on the right side, you notice I have my Google Assistant configured in here, double tap initiating it, and of course reading notification. Very nice and very simple and easy to configure. Otherwise from here, we can go in there to adaptive power off, of course, turn off when you're not using them. Pause music when they're taken off. Since we have proximity sensing information here, this will definitely work. One thing to mention to you guys though is the right ear is the primary ear, meaning if you're using the buds themselves, let's go back and focus, and you disconnect the left ear, the right ear will keep playing music, but if you disconnect the right ear, the left ear will stop. So just think of this as this is the main hub or the main connection between your phone and the buds themselves. Notification and voice guidance, automatic download software for a software update, and I did receive that. And of course we have initializing settings. Last but not least, under services, you're able to also configure it to work directly with Spotify if you have that, or any of the other 360 audio experiences, as these do support 360 audio. So there's no question, these are going to be some of the smallest buds you can put. One thing to mention, again, since we're not putting this inside of our ear canal, this has to sit on the outside. The fit may be a little bit weird at first, but essentially all you do is put it in where your ear is, and then bring it down to the back, and then of course use the little wing to allow it to sit straight into the actual configuration there. And of course inserting the left ear is pretty much the same experience. You put in and you put it in, and then you make sure you put that little bit of a pushing it down to the level where it needs to be. Now while we were going through the app, we definitely saw this option where it says touch configuration, where I can double tap and turn on certain functionality. So first and foremost, most buds require to tap on them, and this will work on them as well. But one cool thing about here is that it actually also works off earbud, meaning if I actually tap on this little open area in front of my ear, and it does the exact same thing by initiating the assistant for me, and it gives me access to the information that I want, either directly asking it a query, or I can also ask it to just read off my notification. It works just the same. Now, as far as the left side, as you saw there, we have a double tap to play and pause, and of course, triple tap to be able to skip tracks. Now, I can have them both be configured to have functional controls, or since I have access to the assistant, I can also ask it to change the volume level. I can ask it to skip tracks and do a whole bunch of other things. You just have to do it phonetically. It does not turn on the device. It always works really nicely, and of course, I can always hear things around me. That's the benefit here. These earbuds have an open back, meaning there's no reason for, pass-through mode. You notice when we were going through the settings, there is no noise cancellation and there is no pass-through mode or ambient mode or whatever mode where it requires to use the microphones on the buds themselves to amplify the audio coming in from the outside, since technically most earbuds do some type of a sound isolation. This one does not have that. The feeling of this, the best way to feel it, if you don't want to go buy them right now and understand how this is to feel, is if you had a pair of stereo speakers and you had them put them on, obviously at a decent level, close enough to your ears. This is roughly what it would sound like, because that's what it is. It's actually a circular speaker that's projecting the audio directly into our ear canal, and then of course that's how the audio gets in here. The audio performance is actually really nice, surprisingly better than you would think it sounds, and it actually has pretty decent bass and of course a lot of different configuration in the application. So overall, when you're looking at to actually experience audio, they're going to sound very similar to some of the other audio solutions on the market, with the exception of that open back. Meaning, although I can listen to the music and I can enjoy the music, if somebody comes up to me and talks to me, I can still hear them. Now, I can shut the music off or lower it and I can still get the same experience, but that's the real benefit here, the awareness of the environment, and this is a very unique solution from Sony. We don't have any options on the market other than the Linkbuds right now that gives us the ability of using open back earbuds. Open back headphones or over-ear cans are definitely going to be a big benefit, but the main thing, of course, there is you're really intentionally, purposely going to be in a very quiet environment. You're not using them to communicate with people. You're not using them to be aware of people. It's for getting that sound experience. And here, this is the opposite point of it. Now, as a dad, and of course, as a person that works from home, meaning I have meetings, constant calls, and I want to be aware of what's going on. Sometimes, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I want to be able to disconnect from the rest of the world, and I want to put a pair of buds or earbuds or headphones or anything like that will just block out everything around me. And that obviously is going to be a good situation. These are not that. These will not give you that experience. There is no way to make them do that experience. They're intended to be open back for that opposite perspective. It's when I'm working and I'm on a conference call, and let's say I'm on a conference call, but I'm also on one of those really long meetings where I want to be able to enjoy, audio from another source, but not necessarily having to take my ears away so that I'm not listening to the conference. This actually becomes a very, very cool thing. Now, what I'm talking about obviously is, phone calls, teleconferencing, video calls, a whole bunch of things going on during the day. One thing that I definitely enjoy about the Linkbuds is the fact that I can actually use them and still use other headphones on top of them to be part of 2 meetings at the same time, or to be able to play a little bit of music or maybe a podcast in the background as I'm sitting into a meeting that could technically go maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes I have meetings that they're called reviews and so on. They take typically a long day. So the long story short, I want to be able to listen to a little bit of music. I put them in with the Linkbuds, I print them off directly from my phone, and it plays very nicely. I'm able to do 2 things at the same time. Keep in mind, the right ear is the controller, so if you want to be able to just do a 1-ear experience, just take out the left one and it works really nicely. There is no way of extending the life of this, so if let's say the battery on this goes really, really low, you're obviously going to have to put both of them back and charge them and put them back in. Again, that's one of the concerns when you're looking at this. There's also no multi-device connection, but it does allow you to pair it to multiple devices. It's just single connection at a time. Battery life, actually consistently pretty good, about 4 and 5 hours respectively. Again, there's no worry about ANC or pass-through sound. This is literally as the sound plays. For me, conference calls and so on, like I said, I like to put in some music. I maybe sometimes listen to podcasts. Again, sometimes meetings can go forever, but if you're a parent and you want to have that good sound experience from Sony, but still be aware of what's going on, this is going to work for you great. If you work from home, if you're in meetings all the time, but you still want to be aware of what's going on, or you want to be able to do a couple of things at the same time, these are going to work great for you. The sound on these is not going to be super, super loud. You're not going to have that isolated sound experience in your ear. It's always going to feel like you can be in a room where you're listening to music from a speaker that just happens to be very close to you. And of course, we're able to customize the experience based on the app and what we're listening to. The 360 audio, you do need to have a 360 audio supported application. Of course, Deezer and so on, so you'll be able to get some of that experience. There's a customization option in there also to tune the actual buds for your ears. So you take some pictures with them for the app, and of course it customizes that profile and it saves it directly in here. And what I like about this is if, let's say, I transfer it from one phone to the other, that customization transfers over with me because I have that saved to my profile, not necessarily just to that device. So how has it been using it with the Xperia 1 Mark IV? So first and foremost, I know you want to hear how the audio from the headphones are. So let's go ahead and do a quick sample of the microphones on the brand new Linkbuds from Sony. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys want to hear how does the audio from these microphones sound. Now, yes, definitely going to be different than when we do, let's say, on phone calls. But I can tell you that based on experience and using these to be on phone calls, conference calls and all, they sound very nice. And the open ear design allows me to be aware of what's going on. Like right now, I'm talking to you guys, even though technically there's no sound coming to them, I can hear the birds clearly as if I had nothing in my ears. I think that's one of the unique features of the open back design. Typically with open back cans that are over the ear, obviously those you wouldn't walk around with all the time. Those are intended to be more of a quiet environment, being indoors. These are intended to be taken outdoors and be aware of what's going on while still be able to listen to music. And again, you can use them in one ear as opposed to both at the same time. So they work very nicely. And hopefully this is a good example and you guys can hear the woodpecker in the background. So that was an example of how the audio sounds like when we're recording into video. So video calls and so on, those are good examples. But how do they actually sound? So let's go ahead and give you guys a quick example. We're going to use my microphone, bringing them in. Since technically they have a much bigger surface for performing or providing us audio, this should be actually a much easier process for me to capture how the audio is going to play back. For that, we're going to be playing our favorite song, Alex Grindo Jumbo by NCS Release.
Jack it up.
That was actually one of the first surprising things about these earbuds. The fact that they can provide us such a full, rich sound without having them being in our ears and still giving us that experience of being able to listen to the outdoors if we need to. So keep in mind, microphones are great. The audio experience is good. They're not going to get as loud as some of the other options on the market because they're not providing us that seal, but these are not intended to be for that. These are intended to be for more a situational awareness type of an experience, so you always know what's going on around you. Now, as you heard there, the audio is actually really good, and it actually transfers very nicely to when we're using it on phone calls, so there's not going to be an issue. The other thing, obviously, controlling it and using it on the phone is pretty straightforward, so I just basically have right now on the phone, double tap. And it's really, really easy, and if I do triple tap, skips to the next song, double tap, pauses the song. So at the end of the day, do I recommend these buds for people that are looking for a good audio solution, but are still looking for something that gives them the ability of being aware of things around us and don't really like the solutions that we have on the market right now? And what I'm talking about is solutions where they use the microphones and amplify the audio from the outside. Now, there are some really good options on the market and they're definitely a lot more expensive, but that's not the question. The question is, do these sound good? Yes. Do they provide us a good audio experience? Absolutely. There's no noise cancellation and no pass-through audio because this is literally open, so you can hear things around you. So if you're looking for that, these are not going to be the buds that fit your needs. Sony does make a whole bunch of other genres for in-ear as well as over-the-ear, like the XM3s, the XM4s, and I think the XM5s are also coming out very soon. They just released the ones coming out with the over-the-ear experience. But for me, I like what these provide me. For me, when I'm in a call, when I'm in a, let's say I'm on a call, on a video chat or so on, I'm still able to be aware. If my son calls me, my wife calls me, something happens on the front door, I need to go, I'm always aware. And for those moments that I do want to have that total personal experience that I don't want to basically hear somebody else, there are obviously other solutions on the market. These are just great for what they offer, and I'm hoping that this video brought a little bit more information for you on what the Sony Linkbuds can do. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. I'll see you in the next one.